All right, let's go over some problems on page 169 here. We're going to start with number 1, and they flat out ask you to graph each line. So here's an equation of the line. It's going to be a straight line somewhere on this graph paper, so you're going to need graph paper. Hopefully you remember when y is by itself, it's a formula y is equal to mx plus b. This is the slope, this is the y-intercept. And so the way you plot this, the slope in this case is 1, it's not 0, it's 1. The y-intercept is 2. The way you graph this is first you plot the y-intercept. The y-axis, you go up 2 spaces. So there's a little dot right there. So that means our graph line is going to go through this red point here. Now where it's going to go, I don't know. We're going to determine that based on the slope. The slope is the number that's in front of x. In this case it's 1, which is the same as 1 up, 1 across. So from this red dot, not from 0, 0, you go 1 up, 1 across, and then you've got another dot, 1 up, 1 across. It's a positive slope, so it goes upwards. If this was a negative one, it would have went this direction, but it's a positive slope, so it goes upwards from left to right. Something is gaining height here, and that's the equation. You can put the equation right there, y is equal to x plus 2, especially if you're going to put more than one line on one graph. The other way to do this particular problem is if you don't know how to read the 2 and the 1, you could just make an old XY T-chart. You pick easy numbers for x, and don't pick whatever numbers you feel like for y. You just plug this 0 for x here. This would be y is equal to 0 plus 2. 0 plus 2 is 2, so y would be 2. If I plug in a 1 here, 1 plus 2 is 3. Y would equal 3. If I put a 2 here, this would be a 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. And then when you plot these points, 0, 2 up, 1, 3 up, 2, 4 up, you would get these same dots, and you would have the same equation of the line. Okay, moving on to number 5 here. In the book it says graph each line using intercepts. So again, this is XY, it's going to be graphed on XY. There's going to be a line here on this graph when we're done. It's not in your traditional y is equal to mx plus b form, so if you really want to see it that way, you can move the 2x over, divide by 6. But if not, they're saying figure out where the intercepts are. So the way you do that is when you set up a T-chart here, you don't just go 0, 1, 2, 3. You're actually going to figure out x is 0 and figure out what the corresponding y is. Don't put x as 1, put y is 0 and figure out what the corresponding x value is. Now what this is when you have a 0 comma something or some number comma 0, these are the x and y intercepts. The way this works is because x and y are on the same side, this is called standard form. It's easy to solve this. If I put a 0 right here, 2 times 0 or anything times 0 is 0. This goes away. And really you have 6y is equal to 12, divide by 6, y would be 2. 6y is equal to 12, divide by 6, y is equal to 2. So when x is 0, y is 2. Now instead of putting a 1 here and a 2 here and a 3, you're going to let y be 0. So if I put a 0 here, I'm just going to block that out with my finger. 2x is equal to 12. And when I divide by 2, I get 6. So when y is 0, this goes away, x is 6. Now why is it called the intercepts? Because when I plot this, you're going to see 0 left to right, but up and down 2. That's the y-intercept. 6 to the right, and up and down 0. And so here is the equation of the line, using those 2 dots, which are the intercepts, the x and y intercepts. And this is an equation in what we would call standard form, because x and y are on the same side. If you really want to, you can move the 2x over, divide by 6. It would look like this if we did that correctly. This is the same exact equation as this right here, getting y by itself. It crosses here at 2. It has a negative slope of 1 over 3 across, 1 over 3 across. So standard form, slope-intercept form. Okay, let's look at number 17 here. It says write the equation in point-slope form of the line that contains a given point and a given slope number. Now here's the point-slope form. You're still going to have a y and x, and you are given 1 point, so this is an x value, this would go here. This is a y value, this would go right here, and this is the slope, and it would just go right here. If I do this in point-slope form, here's what it would look like. Y minus the y value, which is 3, is equal to the slope, which is 2 in this case, times parentheses x minus the x value. This is the answer if you want it in what is called point slope form. But a lot of times they're going to ask you to go beyond this and do it in the traditional y is equal to mx plus b form, which is the slope intercept form. And that's what I'm going to do also. This is a point. Point P here is 2, 3. This is x, y. So what I'm going to do is plug the 2 in where the x is, the 3 where the y is, and the slope, which is 2, I'm going to plug it in where the slope number is, which is the m value. We're going to solve for b. So y is 3, slope is 2, the other x is 2 plus b. This is 3 is equal to 4 plus b minus the 4. 3 minus the bigger number 4 is negative 1. And then when I want to put it all together, I go y is equal to mx plus b. M is the slope, 2x plus b minus 1. Now believe it or not, these are equal. They don't look like they would be equal, but if I do the distributive property here and add this 3 over, you would have the same exact equation here. Okay, this is in slope-intercept form, this is in point-slope form. Okay, I'm going to do number 23 here. It says in directions, write an equation in point-slope form of the line given 2 points here, D and E for number 23. So we are given a point, so we can put that where the point number would go. Either point, you either use the D value or the E value, the X, the Y. What we need to figure out is the slope. They don't give you the slope. So that is this formula, y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. So each point has an x and a y, and of course x1, y1 is for the first point, x2, y2. So I'm going to put these 4 digits into this formula and figure out what the slope number is. y2 is 8, minus y1, which is 5, over x2, which is 5, minus 0. So this is 3 over 5. So that is the slope number. So the equation is, now you can take either point because you only need one. So I'm going to take point D here. Here's the equation. Y minus the y value, which happens to be 5, is equal to m, the slope, which I just figured out to be 3/5, x minus the x value, which is 0 here. Okay, that's the point slope form. I use point D with the slope, threw it into the right spot. Or you could have used point E. Now these might not even look like they're the same, but they will be. You take y minus the y value, this is 8, is equal to 3/5 x minus the x value, which is 5. Now again, these two do not look the same, but they would be. If you did the distributive property, then add 5 here or add 8 here, you will get the same exact line, same exact look. Now I also included the slope-intercept form. If you've got 2 points here and you want to put in the y is equal to mx plus b, first thing you do is exactly what we did here, figure out the slope, which I figured out to be 3/5, 3/5 x plus b. I need to figure out b now. I'm going to use either point, the 0, the d, or the e. I'm going to use the d, which is 0, 5, so this is x, that's y. So I'm going to put a 5 here. 3/5 times the x value is 0. This cancels out, that's 0, because anything times 0 is 0. So it looks like, whoops, that's a plus sign there. Looks like b is equal to 5. Don't stop there. Go y is equal to 3/5 the slope, x plus 5, the y-intercept. Again, these are both, all 3 of these are the same exact thing. Okay, the slope-intercept form, the point-slope form, using either point D or point E, doesn't really matter, you'll get the same result. Okay, let's move on to number 35 here. It says graph each line. Number 35 says x is equal to 9. I'm also going to graph 34 here at the same time. It says y is equal to negative 2. Now what you'll notice with both 34 and 35 is there's an x here, but where's the y? There's a y here, but where's the x? This is not your traditional y is equal to mx plus b. Well, 34 kind of is. Y is equal to 0 x minus 2. Anything times 0, this is pretty much just gone. Okay, so the slope is 0. And really this is y is equal to negative 2. So what happens here is these are not your traditional slanted lines. This is going to be, for 34, y is negative 2. This is going to be with a slope of 0. This is a flat line at negative 2. So right here. And any of these red dot points that I'm creating here, if I pick any of these points, you will always notice that y is negative 2. And that's why that's the equation. This is y is equal to negative 2. I'll just pick this point here. This happens to be x is -6, but y is down 2, -2. If I pick this point right here, x is +5, but you'll notice y is -2. Doesn't really matter. That's for number 34, and this is going to be x is equal to 9. Now, this is, instead of a flat line, this is where you have an undefined slope, which is a straight up and down line at where x is equal to 9. So that would be right here. What is that? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It would be right here. This is a straight up and down line, undefined slope. This is when x is equal to 9. And just like this previous one, any point I pick on this line, like this one here, you'll notice x is 9 over, y is 4 spaces up. This point here, x is 9 over, y looks like it's -7 there. But x is always 9. And so y is -2, flat line. X is equal to 9, straight up and down. Kind of those trick graphs. Okay, we're going to do number 40 here. It says, 40a, what is the slope of the x-axis? So here's the x-axis going left to right. What is the slope of that line? Well, slope is how steep the line is. This thing is flat. It has no steepness at all. This slope number is simply 0. And then if it was 1, it would be 1 up, 1 across, 2, 2 up, 1 across, and so forth. But in this case, it's 0 because it's a flat line. What is the equation of the x-axis? Now, normally it's like, well, why would that line have an equation? Well, any straight line has an equation attached to this. So if I look at the basic formula, y is equal to mx plus b, the slope, as we just figured out, is 0. So y is equal to 0x plus b. If I look at this pink line, the x-axis, where does it cross the y-axis? It crosses right here at 0. So you put a 0 here for the b. That's the equation of this line. Y is equal to 0. Doesn't move up, doesn't move down. Y is always 0 if you pick any point on this pink line. Okay? X might move left to right, but y always stays at 0. And that's the equation of the x-axis.